Hey friends, welcome to the Strangers in Common podcast. I hope this finds you well, but if you're not well, that's okay. I'm always here for you. So, this is another one we had a little bit of technical difficulties on in the beginning. A couple just dead spots, which hopefully I can get taken care of. But if it sounds weird on those, it's because we realize that depending on the recording spot we're using, if it's on a mobile phone, if the phone locks, then you can't hear. So, good to know if you ever plan on recording with me or if you plan on recording your own podcast. Just a little helpful hint, make sure your phone doesn't lock. So, we'll go ahead and jump into the episode and get to know somebody that you don't. And today that person is Tawnya.
Tawnya, can you hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it so much.
Of course.
So we can just jump right in and have you tell your story however you see fit. So wherever you want to start with it, really.
Okay. I'm not really sure where to start, but I'm good for whatever.
Well, so, I mean, we can start, with your childhood, if there was anything you want to talk about on that. Like, what was it like for you growing up?
I think it was good. I had a good childhood. I think that I didn't really realize some things until I got older because it was like just the norm. So, we were poor. Like we were poor. We didn't have any money. My parents worked really hard to provide for us. So we didn't really realize that we didn't have money, but now I realize like what a struggle it must have been for them. So that was part of my childhood.
That's
and
a common thing, you know that? Like, not just with me, but a lot of people I talk to, they're like, yeah, we were poor. We just didn't know it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think like, how would you know unless you compared it against something? And I think even when I think now about like the people who were friends of ours that did have money, like, I mean, it was kind of like if you lived north of 92nd, then right. You must have some money. But like now, hello?
Okay.
I'm not sure what happened. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It happens. It's all right.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's one interesting part. I think another interesting part of my childhood is my biological mom left. Mine and my brother's biological mom left when we were really little. And so I don't have a ton of memories around that, but I do have some. She struggled with addiction, and made a choice to leave. And then my dad, remarried my mom, who I call mom, when I was 6. Right. So we were raised by a single dad from the time we were like probably 1 and 2 until 6, and then grew up with my mom as my mom, and that just seemed normal too. But I think now that I get older, it's like, well, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's stories of moms leaving, but it's I guess it's on the rarer side. It's more you hear the dads leaving.
Yeah. So I am forever a defender of single dads, because I think so often you hear people saying like, oh yeah, deadbeat dads, and it really does work both ways.
It does. Did she ever come back around at all, or no?
So you had asked if she ever came back into my life, and I looked her up when I was like 19. So okay. I had made a decision that I was going to move to Arizona. And I drove with my friend Veronica from Denver to Phoenix. And I was kind of curious at that time, like, I wonder what she's like. So I think it's a little, the timeline's a little fuzzy, but I think at that time I had like talked to her on the phone, but maybe not met her. And then my brother John passed away when I was 20 and he was 19. And that was the first time I had seen her since I was like 6.
Right.
So that was a really weird situation. Like my brother was in California when he passed away. And so I'm not exactly certain how the timeline went, but we were made aware that he wasn't going to make it. And so we flew out there.
So you said you guys flew out there.
So we flew out there and somebody had made her, I call her Sharon. So somebody had made Sharon aware that he was not going to make it also. So by the time I got there with my dad, she was already there. And that was the first time I had seen her since I was 6, which was really awkward and uncomfortable.
I can imagine.
And honestly, like at that time I was so young and I was so mad and so heartbroken that interaction didn't go super well. So that was the first time I had seen her. And then there was another time when I was traveling again. So that one was kind of like done and over with. Then there was another time when I was older, probably like 28 maybe. I looked her up and I actually stopped to see her in Albuquerque then. That was a good interaction. So we went out to dinner and kind of talked a little. So that was interesting because my whole hello?
Okay. I hear you now. Okay.
I think I figured it out. I think it's if my phone, the screen locks.
Oh, is it? That very well could be.
Yeah, so I just need to make sure the screen doesn't lock. Where did I stop?
You said
Sorry.
you said it was very interesting when you met her at 28.
Oh, it was interesting when I met her then because I had gone my whole life not being raised around her. And so there's always this question of like nature versus nurture. And people
Right.
tell me often that I look like my dad. They tell me that I look like my stepmom too, my mom. But meeting her, I was like, oh my God, we like have a lot in common. We look a lot alike. We talk a lot alike. At one point we were like eating and we looked across the table and we were like holding our straw and our cup the exact same way. It was like looking in a mirror of some sort. So yeah. And then after that point, we stayed in touch over text message for quite a while. So she would text me, on holidays and my birthday or just occasionally, and I would text her back. We just have small conversations about how things, just like life in general.
Right.
But I lost contact with her in 2019, and so I have not had any contact since 2019.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough. One of my daughter's mom basically took off on her, so I know that's not an easy situation, and thankfully she had someone to step up and be mom. So
Yeah, I think
definitely get where you're coming from.
the interesting thing about that is that's like I mentioned before, like it seemed normal for so long. And I had a mom. My mom raised me, so I had a mom. Right. But I think like as I get older, there's like all these things that I wasn't aware that maybe was impacting me a little bit more than what I thought had been impacting me. So yeah, it's just an interesting it's just an interesting thing to like recognize and realize that while it doesn't feel like it's impacting you at the time, it might have impacts later.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now you and your brother were like super close, right?
Yeah, we were super close. We were like the kind of siblings where we fought like crazy. We fought so bad. But we also were like each other's number one fan and number one defender. So we were close in age too. So, like when siblings are close in age, there's a lot of There's a lot of arguing to be done, but yeah, it's
there
super
is.
close.
What did he pass from?
He was hit by a car. So
Okay.
he, growing up, he loved like board sports. So we started skiing really young. I never really liked it. He fell in love with it. And then started snowboarding and skateboarded forever. And when he was like, he at some point moved up to the mountain and worked at a ski resort and met a friend there and decided that he wanted to learn how to surf. And so he like packed stuff in his bag that he could carry and they took a bus to California. And the whole goal was to like get established there and learn how to surf. So he bought a surfboard. Like I'm pretty sure he spent all the money that he should have used on rent and bought a surfboard. And I didn't have the opportunity to talk to him while he was there. He was only there for a couple of weeks. And then, I know he tried surfing once and he told my dad that it was really hard. And then he was just crossing the street in Huntington Beach and was hit by a car and killed.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Yeah, it was rough though.
So,
but he was definitely doing what he loved. So I find some comfort in knowing that he was doing what he loved. He was skateboarding across the street and just didn't look both ways.
So did that, I'm sure that had a huge impact on you.
Yeah, definitely. I still think to this day it played a huge role in shaping like who I am and how I operate. So there's like some really good thing. There's nothing good that could come of like a tragedy like that.
Right.
I think I spent like the next 5 years mostly just barely surviving. But I think things that have come of it that has like helped is he had a real sense of adventure. And I don't know that I had that growing up. So he would always want to do things and I would be like, no way, I'm too scared. But losing him has really like helped me recognize and realize that we only get this once here that looks like this. I don't know what's next. Like maybe there's something next, but it's not going to look like this.
Right.
So taking advantage of every opportunity is important. So I think to that end, like it's helped me kind of not be as fearful as adventure. And I've had some really, really cool experiences because of that.
What's your coolest experience?
I have, let me think, coolest.
If you
I've been doing some things as of recently, like I've taken a couple 5-day, 4-day, 5-day raft trips, and those have been interesting and scary, and really pushed me outside of like what my comfort zone is. I really like thought I was going to die twice.
Like whitewater rafting?
Impulsively. The most recent one is when John was here, they used to ditch school and go cliff jumping at Gross Reservoir.
Okay.
And I always was like, absolutely not. There is no way I'll ever do that. But I took a raft trip since he passed away, I've been saying, like, I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to do that one day. So I took a raft trip near Yosemite on the Tuolumne River last summer. They had this spot called Rainbow Pools where people do cliff jumping. And I made myself do it. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying. And I actually ended up getting hurt. And so it was like, I think it's magical in many ways because I think it's cool to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and do something that you don't think you can do. And I also love the feeling of like your heart, like you doing something where you can feel your heart beating, where it's like not mistakable. Like, oh yeah, it's there it is.
Right.
So, I like that. I wouldn't do it again. I'm done with that part of my life.
Right. You're like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I actually like doing it. It was kind of I had to figure out how to get up to the spot where you jump, and other people were jumping too. But I went the first day and I got too scared, so I didn't do it. So I made myself go back the second day, and somebody helped me figure out like a way to climb the rock to get up there. And I jumped and I recorded it on my phone. And as soon as I hit the water, you could hear the people that were watching say like, "Oh fuck." And then as soon as I got up, they're like, "Are you okay?" Um, and I was like, "Yeah," but I knew as soon as I hit the water that something wasn't right. So I just landed wrong on my leg, and my whole, like from my knee to my back, was a giant bruise, big,
Oh,
like the whole thing. And the hard part about that is I had to go on a 4-day raft trip after that. So a lot of like
oh man.
swimming, bouncing around. But I don't know. The interesting thing about that is I afterwards looked it up and was like, I wonder if anybody else has gotten hurt there. Yeah, people have definitely died there.
Oh, nice. That's why you
So
don't.
it's like,
Why you don't look it
yeah,
up before you go.
yeah, I did. No, but I'm kind of glad I didn't because I would have never done it then. And I'm thankful for the experience.
Right. Um, I know one of the major things that you dealt with was cervical cancer, right?
I did, yeah.
What what was your experience with that?
Um, it was super, super scary and really unexpected. Um, the really like how it happened is I'm separate. I am divorced. I separated from my husband in 2019, which was kind of a big deal. I mean, it's a really big deal. It's like in the hardest things I've done also, but I
Well,
have always,
it's a big deal. I mean, it's still a it's still a divorce. It's not something that just comes lightly, obviously.
yeah, it was really tough. And one of the tough things is that I've known since I was like born that um, oh, sorry, I've known since I was born that I want to be a mom. And I want to have babies. And
Right,
I've parented many kids, many kids. I've mentored and parented many kids, but I wanted my own. And that's part of the reason for the separation with my husband. So that happened in 2019. Fast forward, I was like just exploring options and knew that I wanted to like see if it would still be possible for me to have a baby. So I knew I had not been regular with my checkups. And so like the first step was like, I'm going to just go to the doctor and do just a regular routine checkup and just start there and see what they say.
right.
And they said, "Oh, this looks not normal. It could be a sign of cervical cancer."
Oh,
So I had to wait for the results for the pap smear to come back. And when it came back, it was like, yeah, it is cervical cancer. So I quickly like had to schedule surgery to remove it. And I think what was really terrifying is the surgery that I had was like, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it was going to remove where the cancer was. Oh no. Sorry, my dog just spilled too much stuff. It was going to remove where the cancer was, but it also was going to tell like how advanced the cancer was.
okay,
So there was a chance that it could have removed it all, or there was a chance that it could come back and say, you need to have an additional surgery, like it has spread here or spread there. Um, so that was really nerve wracking because there's no answers and you just don't know. So I had the surgery May 12th, which was also the anniversary of John passing away. So
oh wow,
yeah, it was a rough day, but it was also nerve wracking because it was my first surgery, the first time ever being like put under anesthesia. All those things are so scary. I think no matter how many times you do it, but it was really scary because it was the first. So
right.
I'm thankful they did that surgery. There was like a waiting period where they had a hard time. Um, they had a hard time reading the results.
Oh,
So they left me hanging for like 4 weeks. So there was a period where they were like, like, this could be really like one lab result we're looking at looks like it could be stage 4 or it could just be stage 1 and we could have gotten it. So anyway, as it turns out, after all the waiting, it was caught super early.
Oh, nice.
And I have had several appointments with the oncologist since where they remove part of my cervix and test again, and they've all come back good so far.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I feel like I'm thankful that there was something inside of me that like prompted me to go get a routine checkup that I should have been doing, but I wouldn't have done it if I didn't want a baby.
Right.
And now I think like I'm not certain. I think that I probably won't have a baby because the surgery itself increases the risk of infertility and miscarriages, and it's something that I'm still trying to figure out. But
Have you thought about adoption at all, or is that something?
no,
'Cause
I have parented many young people.
that's what I was going to ask you. I know you said that. So,
And there's like for some reason I love all of them, and I feel super fortunate. Like I became the legal guardian to a 15-year-old a few years ago and helped see him through like high school graduation. And at the same time, I parented his sister, and I am still close to them.
you've kind of done that.
Yeah. There's like some weird desire for me to have a biological baby, but
I don't think it's weird at all. Like everybody, there's a lot of people that have that desire.
yeah,
And
for sure.
if it's in the cards, it'll happen. I mean,
Yeah, that's kind of what I like. If it happens, it happens. If not, then I'll figure out how to not do that.
right. So did you have to go through all that alone since you were going through a divorce?
Not alone. I have a super large support system, and I'm really thankful for that. My parents are amazing. I have amazing friends who are supporters. So no, definitely not alone.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
So let's switch to a little more positive side. Tell me about the work that you do with the kids, like the high school kids and everything.
I feel super fortunate. I have a job that I love. So I work for the city of Brighton. I've been there for 13 years. I just had my 13-year anniversary, which is mind blowing to me. Yeah, time goes by fast. So what I do there is I in the manager of youth services, and I basically create and oversee and run programming serving young people. So a lot of college and career readiness and a lot of leadership development.
Very cool.
Which is, yeah, super fun. I love it. I feel really fortunate. I've been working with young people for about, oh gosh, I started really strong in 2005. And that was a cool experience. So I did a year of AmeriCorps. I don't know if you're familiar with AmeriCorps, but it's like kind of like the domestic Peace Corps.
I'm not. I didn't know that, but that's really cool.
Yeah, so I did a year of service there, and that year of service I did at a place called Willow Green Townhomes, and I created and ran after school programming and summer programming for young people. So that's kind of where like the work started. And I feel super fortunate for that because some of the young people that I met there really developed into like my friends and my family. So I still keep in touch with a bunch of them.
Yeah, you actually got us into those apartments.
I don't remember that until you just mentioned it, and now I like as soon as you mentioned it, I remember that now.
You got me, my wife, and our 4 kids into those apartments.
I completely forgot about that until just now. What year was that?
That was, oh man, let's see.
It was a while ago.
It was a long time. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, like a while ago.
Me and my wife have been together 15 years, so it was somewhere towards the beginning of that.
Interesting. I completely forgot. Yeah, it was a cool place. It was like I think some of the hardest life lessons and professional lessons, that's where I learned it. But
Oh,
also
nice.
some of the most magical things have come from there too.
And then with a lot of the youth stuff you do, you do a lot with mental health and like suicide prevention with them too, right?
I do. So my current group, after I worked at Willow Green, then I moved on. I became the manager or the director of family services there, and then just by chance I found this job in Brighton. So I like thought I wanted to volunteer for the youth commission, and my first meeting checking it out as a volunteer, the woman who was running it said, "I'm going to resign, you should try to take my position." So I did, and I worked in Brighton part-time for 9 months just running the youth commission. And during that time, so that would have been like 2011, I think, there was an unfortunate event where a senior at one of our local high schools died by suicide. His name was Josh. And my youth commission at the time was like, I mean, they were upset and they were hurting.
Right.
And I kind of was like, just because I have a background in mental health and I know how important it is to not let that stuff go untalked about. We were at a youth commission meeting and I said, hey, like if you guys aren't okay, please talk to me or talk to, somebody, but don't let those feelings just go untalked about. And that night that I said that, they were like, we're not okay, but not in the way that we're going to hurt ourselves. Like we want to do something to make sure to educate the community about mental health. And I tell this story all the time, but I was like, okay, well, what do you guys want to do? And they said, we want to do a week-long worth of education in our local 27J schools. It was 2 high schools at the time, and we want
Right.
to end it with a 5K walk. And I was like, I'm out for that. Like, absolute no way. Sorry, guys. And there was a couple reasons for that. One, I just know like it's hard to partner with school districts sometimes because they're overwhelmed and overworked as it is, and adding more work for them is not always the best thing.
Right.
And I was working full-time in Denver and part-time in Brighton, and like event planning and that kind of organizing is not really my thing. But one of the things the youth commission focuses on is youth adult partnerships. So they pushed back and they're like, no, you teach us about youth adult partnerships and you want to be like, we're telling you this is what we want to do, so help us do it. So I did. And that is how Speak Week was started. So Speak Week is a week-long worth of education that takes place in our local 27J schools, and it's wrapped up by a 5K walk. And we just
Right.
finished the week last Saturday.
I know. I saw that. Has there been any type of push to get that something like that in other districts outside of Brighton?
So
No.
there's been like a lot of questions that are asked. I think some school districts are really doing a lot around mental health. Some could be doing others. We've had school districts call and say like, hey, how do you do that? Or what is it that you're doing? Or other youth groups will call and say, hey, how do we like duplicate what you're doing?
Right.
And we always, share the word with them. But that's as far as we've gone. It's a pretty big undertaking for us here. So since
I can
that first
imagine.
year they were in two, yeah, it's crazy. The first year they were in 2 high schools, and then this year they were in 13 schools. So
Oh
all
wow.
the way from middle school to high school. I mean, I'm sorry, elementary school to high school. So and it really truly is like my team and I do our best to let it be their project. So I always say like it's like a fire hose. If you were to turn a fire hose on full blast with nobody holding it, that's like their energy. And so it's not my job to like be the fire hose or be the energy. It's like my job to channel their energy. So just grab a hold of it and like point it in a direction and help them channel it. So sometimes honestly, I'm like, it would be easier if my team and I just did this on our own, but
Right.
that's like not the mission of the project. So
No, and that's fair, and it, it's amazing because it is. I feel it's super important to even down to the elementary school because I mean I'm sure you know as well as I do. You know, growing up, we didn't talk about that stuff, so
no, right. It's
there's
true. And we all knew somebody who struggled, with mental health
oh
at some point, but it
yeah,
just wasn't talked about as much.
ever.
Right, right.
It was like no, just be quiet, shove it down, you're fine.
It's true. And I think for me, like for us, my mom, my stepmom, my mom, struggled with mental health all through growing up. So she was really open and honest with us because she had to be. she had no other choice but to be. But if it
Right.
weren't for that, I don't ever really remember talking about it anywhere else aside from home. And I know that a lot of people don't talk about it at home. So it's important for sure.
Oh, it's so important. It honestly took me almost 30 years to even realize that, because it was like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm
Right.
fine.
Right.
I'm fine. I'll deal with it.
Yeah, it's so true.
Terrible. So, how did you get into beekeeping?
Oh, beekeeping. I love beekeeping. I love the bees. I how I started is my aunt and uncle live in Palisade and they were keeping bees. And then my ex-husband, his dad's grandpa also was a beekeeper. So
Sure.
there was like this weird thing, just this weird timing of I was going, my aunt and uncle invited me to help them harvest honey one year. And I did. And I fell in love with the process of harvesting honey with them. And it was a lot of work. They had like a manual honey extractor. So you have to like turn this wheel really fast and make the honey spin out. But the three of us would go through like a 3-day process of extracting honey. And I think they thought that I was like going to help them and they were so thankful for my help. But I really just love the process. So between watching them keep bees and then watching my father-in-law try to keep bees because his grandpa did it, um, it's kind of hard to get bees through winter. And so I watched them lose their bees a couple times. And I was like, I think I could do this different. And I think I could get them through the winter. So I read for about a year, just did all the research I could do. And then I just took the dive. I like bought myself a couple beehives and tried it. And I don't remember if I got them through the winter that first year, but I have since gotten them through the winter. And I just have continued. Like you could learn and learn and learn and learn forever. And there's still more to learn. So
How do you get them through the winter? Out of curiosity,
the
do they just
biggest
hibernate?
reason they bees live through the winter. So they like vibrate their bodies and flap their wings fast enough to keep the hive at like, I don't know, like 70 degrees or something, 70 or 80
Oh,
degrees.
wow.
And they eat honey. So that's what honey is for, is it's usually the food that gets them through the winter. But the
Okay.
one of the biggest killers of bees are mites, varroa mites. And so in my opinion, um, regularly treating for mites and like managing your hives is the best way to get them through winter.
Oh,
But
okay.
I also like I had a very early mentors. My aunt and uncle were the first who like really taught me a ton about bees. And then there was a bee shop in Wheat Ridge called Dakota Bees. And the man who ran that bee shop, Greg, was an amazing mentor to me. So I would like call him all the time and ask him questions. And I'd go to his shop when I didn't understand something and ask him questions. And he said something to me that I always forget. Like, I mean, I always remember, I'll never forget. Sometimes you do everything right and they die or leave. And sometimes you do everything wrong and they're fine. So it's tricky. They're kind of fickle. Like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I guess that's much like life, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It really is. So I remember the first time I lost a hive, I was devastated. I was so sad. And I still am sad when I lose a hive, but it's not now it's like, yeah, it's just kind of the way it works. You win some, you lose some.
Right. No, that's definitely a good life lesson, I suppose. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would be devastated if I lost a hive of bees, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
So is the honey better coming straight out of the hive?
I think so. I think it's delicious. It's one of my favorite things. Everything about it. Like I extract honey usually in August, and it's a process. You can come if you ever want to check it out and see it. But there's
Yeah,
a lot of
for
honey
sure.
eating during that process, and it is so good.
I don't know. I tried raw honey. I didn't really care for it. Maybe it was where we got it. I mean,
Yeah,
in all fairness, it was down in New Mexico at a gas station, so
I mean,
you know.
I think it's best when it like comes right out of the hive. Like you just take a piece of honeycomb and chew it, suck the honey out, and then spit out the wax. That's the best way to have it.
I'll have to try it in August. I'll have to hit you up in August and come
All right,
out.
I'll let you know.
Right. Um, is there? I mean, is there anything else you want to share with everybody? Like, I mean, it's your time.
um, I don't know. I don't think so. I
No.
think like I just try to keep going the best I can and be like
What would be
have a
your one
real
piece of
love.
advice to someone going through any kind of hard times?
Oh, I think my one piece, I give a lot of advice often. I think my advice is like, I just really think that no matter, I tell myself this every day too, like, no matter how ugly life is, there's like so much beauty. There's so much beauty. But if we don't open our eyes to it, we just won't see it. So you have to like really open your eyes and your brain and your heart to the beauty that's around you, even in the hard times, probably especially in the hard times.
Right. No,
That's
that's a good piece of advice.
advice.
You mean we can't find it on social media? What the hell?
God, no. I recently took a month off of social media, and I am a social media-er. Like, I'm a Facebooker.
Right.
And I, like, during the whole month of January, I didn't let myself get on social media once. And what I took away from it is I wish we would all just go back to, like,
Oh,
not
yeah.
having it. It's almost like I mean, we have to have it now, right? Because it's the way that we stay in touch and it's the way we stay connected. And staying connected is we need that as humans. We need to be connected. So we have to do it
Right.
almost. But like if we could all just go back to flip phones, I really think our lives would be so much better. I
I took
do.
a I took a break for 2 years from social
Two
media.
years?
I did, and then I came back right around the time of like the George Floyd incident and everything like that. And then I was going to take another break recently, and I started a podcast. So I was like, well, so much for that.
Yeah, you kind of have to have it, right? But it is like, and I forever, it's just more peaceful without it. It is.
It
I've
did.
been working on like managing it differently. So I what I can find myself doing is it's no secret. I'm pretty one-sided politically. I'm not as like I don't talk about it as much as I used to. I used to be really
Right.
like vocal about it all the time. And I still am vocal.
There's
There are
times and
certain things
places.
that like it really like I feel so passionate. I feel passionate about all of it, but sometimes I like cannot not say it. But what I
Right.
used to do is I used to voice it all the time, and I would spend so much time trying to change other people whose opinions I didn't agree with. And I still think like the opinions that I don't agree with, I am pretty certain they're wrong. But I think what I like am trying to do now. So the other thing I would do too is I would like read a post. You mentioned the George Floyd thing. I would like read a post and then I would read every single person's comments and I would just become outraged and infuriated with all the ignorance that I saw. And then I would like go fight the fight on social media about all the ignorance that I was seeing. But nothing comes from that. Like it just doesn't. We're not ever gonna change somebody's mind over a social media fight. I
Right.
don't think that they're ever gonna see the other side. So I've like worked
It
on
takes a toll on you.
balancing. What's that?
It takes a toll on you as well. Like,
Oh, it's awful. It's bad for your soul.
yeah, yeah, it definitely is.
I have this like theory. Some people make fun of me often, but I have this theory that there's like more good in the world than bad. Um, I mean, I have like these high hopes of hitchhiking across the country one day, and everyone's like, "What?" But I think I'd be okay because I really, in my heart, think there's more good than bad.
That's
Uh,
that's hilarious because I think not that you're funny saying that, but I feel the same way. And I'll offer rides to people like on the street, like if they're walking or something. Like I'll pull over and be like, "Hey, you want to ride?" And My wife yells at me all the time for it. She's like, "You don't know what those people are doing. They could kill you." I'm like, "I'm being nice."
Not many people think like us. So when I got this idea, I wanted to hitchhike across the country. I started telling people about it, and everyone was like, "You will die for sure." So I started asking people, like, "Okay, if you have 5 people in the room," and everyone's like, "You're crazy. That's a dumb idea." Then I say, like, "Okay, who here has hitchhiked?" And a lot of people have hitchhiked. And then I say, like, "Who here has ever picked up a hitchhiker?" And a lot of people have picked up hitchhikers. And I'm like, "Okay, well, how many of you have had a bad experience with that?" Nobody. Not,
Right.
I'm not going to say that things don't happen. Things happen, but I think as a whole, there's more good than bad. And at their core, most people's intentions are good.
It's
But being on social media and reading the comments,
right.
like, make you seriously doubt that.
Oh, I know. I'm so aware.
Yeah, for sure.
It's terrible. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. It's been great talking to you. I really do appreciate you coming on and talking to me. So
Of course, of course. Stay in touch.
I will. I
Thanks for thinking
definitely
of me
will.
for the podcast.
And yeah, just answer your messages every once in a while instead of like 4 weeks later.
I know I need to get better. Well, I've been on this crazy 30-day travel journey, but it's
I
done
know
now,
you have.
so
I know you
I'll be
have.
better.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon,
All
Tanya.
right, now have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you guys again for joining me on another episode. Remember to follow me on the socials, Sticko Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There's a YouTube channel, but I haven't quite got that up yet. Send me an email if you ever want to talk or be on the show or whatever, stickopodcast@gmail.com. Make sure you're liking and subscribing wherever you're listening to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever. It just helps me out, and it's cool to see, any new followers that I get. So, also still looking for, little video clips of the best advice you received, whether it's, love, life, taking care of pets, raising kids, cooking, whatever. You can email those to me or send them through a messenger or however you want to get them to me. Carrier pigeon, that might work. Probably not, but any means necessary. So until next time, be safe. Don't be a stranger.